The first key concept of period 5 from AP is about industrialization and global capitalism. You see the 6 points right there that they address. First, how does industrialization change the way things are made? How does it affect the global economy? How does it affect finance, transportation, communication? And then how does it affect society and the responses that both governments and society have to these changes, as well as the transformations that are undergone? So what we're going to look at first is actually 1 and 4, what industrialization changes and how that changes transportation and communication, kind of as part and parcel of the industrialization itself. Why does the Industrial Revolution start in Europe, particularly in England? Well, it's because of location. That's usually the first answer for anything, but certainly its position on the Atlantic, its central place with many other trade routes, certainly affects European ability to get involved in industrial revolution. It inspires change. Furthermore, they have access to capital and resources thanks to the old imperialism, the empires they've had since the 1500s, 1600s, 1700s that we saw in period 4. There's also just a variety in the geography of Europe, and particularly England, that gives them access. Rivers, that gives water energy. Canals are already established and therefore will encourage more canals being built as steam is invented. Resources such as iron, coal, wood, all available. Then you start to see agricultural changes. The agricultural changes which had started in period 4 continue. You've got seed drill, changes in crop rotation, increased mechanization as the Industrial Revolution progresses that enables more agricultural, more goods to be produced and food to be produced with fewer people laboring at that agricultural production. So now people are able to move more to the city and central position, which is going to encourage and enable industrial revolution. That ties into 6 and 7. Increased demographics, there's more people in Europe and they're moving to cities. Finally, England in particular is very supportive of private property, and there's laws in place, including the enclosure movement. And while it brings a lot of negatives to the existing society as England was, it does provide protection and insurance to the people seeking to invest in property. Insurance also, by the way, is starting during this time. So you start to see that being an impact and even a start to the Industrial Revolution. Also, of course, we had the Enlightenment a little bit before, but capitalism and this theory of capitalism, which we see embodied in Adam Smith's book published in 1776 called The Wealth of Nations, does inspire the changes that you see in the Industrial Revolution. Adam Smith, just as a little background, is called the father of capitalism. He basically believes in a laissez-faire, hands-off economic system in which the people who are producing the goods should be the makers and actors in how that money is made. He also believes in this concept of the invisible hand, that if you work for your own self-interest, everyone will prosper, everyone will benefit. So the first industrial revolution is predominantly textile. It's a change in how clothing is made. Mostly during the period 4, the end of the 1700s, was a home-based production where markets would actually buy, businesses would. The major change of the first industrial revolution was predominantly textile. And you see this with the invention of the spinning jenny, which mass produces thread, that followed by the invention of the water-powered loom. The water-powered loom and the idea that you could hook up several looms to one energy source, such as a river or a canal, enables the concept of mass production. And this is where we start to see factories in full swing. Here's an image of a factory itself, and you can see multiple looms connected to one another. And what's really notable about this are the social changes which are going to come. I'm going to hint at these along the way. But here you have workers all working together in a centralized location. You have fewer skills needed, so younger children and unskilled workers can find a job. That's both good and bad. Many skilled workers are going out of business at this point, but it allows this radical shift in mentality in production, mass production, specialization, and machinery. From there are 2 other major changes which are really going to spark the full-out first industrial revolution, and that's coal and then iron. Use of coal in order to warm up water to produce steam becomes the power that runs the first industrial revolution. From steam-powered machinery and the design of the external combustion engine in which steam is bottled up and then drives a piston. All of this enables the rise of machinery that isn't linked to water. So we're now shifting really quickly from water-powered looms to steam-powered looms. Furthermore, you can use coal to warm up and produce and refine iron. This is now a stronger metal that can produce the machinery itself. So here you've got the coal. And coal also has social effects. Working in a coal mine is hard on the body. It is difficult to produce for a long time, and it's going to raise some issues as reform movements get going in the later half of the 1800s in reference to how workers have been treated. The steam engine is the second catalyst. Once you have coal and iron, now you can change transportation and even change the way that goods are spread, not just the way they are produced. All of this has changed yet again in the Second Industrial Revolution, which is more around the mid-1800s into the 1900s. The major changes are along the same lines as the First Industrial Revolution. They're just replacing things. So instead of using steam power, you start to see the rise of petroleum and the internal combustion engine. You see electricity rising with the capturing of electrons in order to produce energy, such as the light bulb. Steel replaces iron as a stronger method. Chemicals allow for more production and more molecular changes. You also have changes in communication. The first telephone, telegraph, radio waves are produced. Then the car, followed by the car with transportation, which also changes transportation as the assembly line is mechanized by people like Henry Ford and others, allowing even faster production, allowing even more specialization, and promoting even cheaper goods. Furthermore, these changes companies. You have a more transnational approach, which leads us into that global effect. Globalization of industrialization starts just by the spread of it. You have industrialization spreading to the USA as the steamboat is invented there by Robert Fulton in 1807. Railroads are in full force by 1860, will play a large role in the American Civil War. Germany doesn't get involved as quickly because they're still unified, but once they're unified into a country by the 1870s, you see them become the leader of steel and coal production, even a monopoly by Crump, which produces the cheapest steel in the business using the Bessemer process. In Japan, the Meiji Restoration, and in Russia, the Witt Revival promotes industrialization there as well. You got the Trans-Siberian Railroad and other things during this time.